Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Elisa Sklar. I am the VP of Marketing for GIS Planning. Very happy to welcome you all here today. We are going to be looking at digital data strategies to support your community retailers. I know in economic development, we are often focused specifically on attracting new investment to our community. But we also, of course, are very concerned about business retention and expansion, making sure that our existing business owners, especially retail, are very happy. And the truth is that a vibrant and healthy local economy and existing economy is very attractive to many investors as well. So we want to make sure that we build that up as much as possible. So with that being said, let's talk about some of the things that we know when it comes to retail. First of all, retail is absolutely central to the economic vitality of any community. In the US, we have 29 million retail workers, plus retail supports an additional 42 million more jobs in manufacturing, supply, and assorted and associated fields. And retail consists about 5.5% of total US gross domestic product, so really a healthy amount. Now, we sometimes hear some commentary about how brick and mortar retail is dead. But the truth is the signs are showing quite convincingly that brick and mortar isn't dying, it's just evolving. And in fact, we're expecting total retail in the US to rise 3.8 to 4.4%, to about $3.8 trillion in the US in 2019. Up in Canada, we are seeing perhaps not exactly that same growth, but also still very healthy growth in retail. So there seems to be no question across the board that calling a death sentence on retail, brick and mortar retail, is premature. And some of the things that we're seeing around this evolution of retail is what we call the growth of the micro trip. So people who perhaps are running out to pick up just one or two things. Sometimes people will order things online to go pick them up at the store, so that micro trip. And then the retailer's challenge, of course, is once we have them in the store, is how do we encourage them to stay a little bit longer or to pick up a few other items while they're there, supporting items or what have you. We also hear about the pre-order physical visit. So those are people who are looking to buy something and perhaps they'll buy online, but they want to go into the store and try on those shoes or see how the color looks with their eyes or whatever it is before they actually purchase it online. And so, of course, for brick and mortar retailers, the challenge is to encourage the in-store purchase, but also perhaps to see this as part of that larger retail experience. And if the in-store visit is part of the buying process, as long as they're buying with you and you're a company, then possibly it doesn't matter as much. Now, I know for community perspective, we want to keep those dollars within the community. So ideally, if they're going to be, if it's a large national chain, you want them to come into the store and buy the item in the store that's located in your community and not just on the national level website. So all sorts of challenges around that. And then experiential shopping is something that we're seeing more and more of. Experiential shopping is when the shopping itself is part of the experience. So in an era of Instagram and other kinds of very visual social media, these are retailers that make their stores extremely beautiful, enjoyable places, destinations, not just shopping places, places where people will go and check in online or take a picture of themselves in the store, in the environment, with the product. Unboxing is something that we see, so people buying things and then coming home and certainly if they're ordering online, we talk about unboxing, but even opening the shopping bags and pulling their things out one at a time and live video blogging what it is that they're actually doing. So definitely some changes on the retail landscape and some exciting opportunities for retailers that are willing to meet those challenges and to see this as a kind of larger set of changes. Now, one of the most important things, of course, for any retailer to think about is locations. Where actually are they going to be setting up? Location, location, location. Retail, as much as anything, absolutely critical. You want to make sure that you're there. So of course, those of you who are familiar with GIS planning will know that our data tools, especially Zoom Prospector Enterprise, our flagship tool, but also our intelligence components, these are standalone data tools that offer an incredible amount of market intelligence and big data that can be easily accessed and easily analyzed so that businesses are able to make location decisions. And this is, particularly, we often think in economic development about these tools for the big companies, but the truth is that the small and medium-sized company owners and retailers, they don't have a lot of time during your office hours to call you, to get your help, to come in. They're going to be looking on your website for whatever market intelligence they can find and looking for locations, usually either late at night or on weekends, certainly often not during your office hours. So you putting these tools online allows retailers looking for locations in your area to crunch all kinds of data tools, data points about demographics, about workforce, about drive time, mapping suppliers and competitors, looking at proximity to other kinds of destinations, maybe universities, hospitals, large shopping malls, and figuring out what are the best places for them to settle. And so the example that you see here on the screen is from Jobs, Ohio. This is Zoom Prospector Enterprise. It is possible to map all kinds of variables and filters to find really the best location for any particular retailer. And the truth is that businesses are choosing communities before they choose locations. And the reason they choose community first is there's all sorts of variables they might be looking for. Maybe they are choosing a specific community to open a retail location because the owners live there. Maybe they see specific opportunities for success. Maybe they look at a community and think that it offers the right mix for potential growth because there is a market there, but also talent or workforce that they want to include in the types of things they're selling. And of course, there's the intangibles, the live, work, play, the sense of place, nostalgia, history, an area's beauty, proximity to activities outside of retail hours that are appealing to the business owners. And we seen a particularly creative attempt to capture that by Scottsdale in Arizona, their Swipe Right for Scottsdale, where they had a kind of Tinder app reference aimed at attracting new firms and talent to Scottsdale, especially millennials, we know is a big part of the demographic in Scottsdale. So if they're trying to get information, capture attention, draw more people to the area and create some excitement around that community as a place where one would want to be living, working, and opening a business. It was quite a creative way to do that. When it comes to location, you want to be able to assist them in finding the ideal place for them to settle, so ideal locations. So how in your community do you believe retailers will find properties in order to settle? And sometimes economic developers are not sure. They assume they'll go to other brokerages or look at online listings. Sometimes their database is available online. And of course, we know many different communities are using our online data tools as examples for how to do that. An example from CERC from the state of Connecticut. In this case, this is their dedicated opportunity zone property search. Opportunity zones, as many of you in the US will know, is a newly designated incentive zone in order to attract investment to areas that may be close to, at, or below the poverty line. Property zone usually thought of in terms of industrial, but also has interesting opportunities for retailers, bringing retailers back to areas that might be depressed and creating all kinds of opportunities around that. So there's data here that is particularly fascinating and represents places that retailers might want to go because of the things that they're trying to do, trying to sell, and trying to achieve. Now, when it comes to data, we've learned that not all data is created equal. And if you are going to be presenting data on your website for retailers and other potential investors in your area, you really want to make sure that you're providing the right kind of data. It must be accurate and up to date. It, of course, must be customized to your location. If it's county level data, that's absolutely useless for retailers. They really need much more granular, hyper-local data. Robust data, it has to have a wide number of variables that you're giving them in order to make their decisions. Of course, it needs to be relevant. So communities that are mapping all the manholes in their area, that's data, but questionable whether that's going to be useful to anyone looking to open or expand a retail location. Of course, you want to make your data interactive and dynamic. And I know that there are tools out there that will offer static PDFs that you can download. Really not terribly useful. You want to be able to get into that data and crunch it. You want to be able to sort it dynamically. You want to look at projections. You want to pick radius and really, or do drive time analysis around specific places. You need to have those analytical tools in order to make sense of the data. The granularity piece, again, means that you can look from the regional, but also drill right down to the zip code, postal code if you're in Canada, the block group, the ward group, so that you can look at the really right around the different properties. Visual means that we take very complex data and we put it into a format that is easy to quickly understand and assimilate. So using infographics to crunch key data points, letting people heat map or use thematic maps so they could layer it on the map and get a sense of what consumer spending patterns are, or where workforce exists, or what age breakdowns are in a particular area. Your data must be easily exported and shared. You can use this, of course, for marketing your community on social media, but also in responses to retailers or business owners or potential investors who get in touch with you and want some information. If you can go in and find the answers on your data tools and create custom links to share it, then you are far ahead of the game being able to do that. Of course, you want to be able to track and analyze your data. You need data about your data. You need to know what properties people are searching, what communities they're looking at in your area. And even more than that, we've coded all of our data tools so that you can know what companies are on your website and what it is that they're actually searching. What are their variables or criteria that they're looking for? And we use reverse IP to look up to do that. So it only is tracking commercial IP addresses, not personal computers or smartphones. But that really gives you an edge up when it comes to being able to reach out proactively to the people on your website. And of course, mobile friendly, because we know that ever-growing proportion of visitors to your economic development websites are going to be doing so from smartphones or from iPads or tablets. And you want to make sure that they're able to use those tools, that they're friendly for them for the small screens, because it's very, very frustrating to try and navigate a desktop site, especially a data tool, that you need to enter information and look at them unless it's mobile friendly. Now, relevant free retail data can be tricky to find, but even more, it can be tricky to present in useful ways to the small and medium-sized business owners that are making decisions. Many of these people do not have the time and are not trained in order to be able to crunch very complex data. So you're going to need to help present it to them in different kinds of ways. So for example, the US Census Bureau, or in Canada, Statistics Canada, gives you a lot of great raw data, but it needs to be filtered and represented. If you're interested in the slide deck, then the hyperlinks in this slide deck are all live, so you can click through and see more. So as you can see, the US Census gives you all sorts of information, all sorts of reports that you can track, but this is what they look like. They are static PDFs, and they are like tables, just rows and rows of numbers and text. Very difficult for a busy business owner to crunch into that and make any sense of it, because it really gets quite dizzying in order to do that. Now, there are other sources of retail data, absolutely. You can go to ICSC, or in Canada, the Retail Council of Canada. All of these links you can click through if you have a look at the slide deck. Of course, there's Federal Reserve banks in different regions and different states. There are retail sectors that produce reports. Again, many of these will be static PDFs. You could go to retail jobs and salary data using something like Indeed or Monster.com. But that is all these different sources, and it doesn't tend to be presented in ways that are very accessible for a busy business owner to be able to to access it and make sense of those things in any ways. So for example, on the tools that we provide, putting them on your website puts that front and center for your business owners. In this case, our mapping intelligence component tracks consumer expenditures in all kinds of categories And you can look at that for city, county, metro, or region. And what you get when you're looking closer at this is you can drill down in these heat maps. You can zoom in, zoom out, and the data gets more granular as you do so. And this is an example in which we're tracking food and beverage expenditures away from home. This is, I guess, a snapshot of Lower Manhattan and Brooklyn area. You can click on any one of those color blocks and it will give you the actual numbers, but you can see how, in this case, expenditures play out in very localized districts within a particular zone. So it allows you to make all kinds of interesting information. Of course, all of this is exportable as well. You can actually do this around a specific address. If you have a location in mind as a retailer that you're looking at, it is possible to get the information from there as well. Similarly, on the Zoom Prospector tool, you can go down into a specific property that you might be interested in. And in this case, we've done a custom business cluster search. We're looking for retail, for home, food, automobiles, personal care. It is possible to drill down further into this one. Each one of the dots on the map represents a business, and you can click on those dots. I've done that over there for one of them, so that you can see some information about that. You can do analysis around any one of those specific businesses quite easily from this report. And you can change the radius on the fly. We're looking at 10 miles around a particular property that is of interest here, but it is very easy to expand that. And then it's very easy to share this customized report. You can put them in folders that you name. You don't need to create a login, remember another password, or pay as a user to access that. So having this open access data to support your retailers is really very critical. It gives them a leg up in being able to make decisions. So what are some of the things that retail business owners actually need? So we know that they need databases of available properties or sites in your area. They want to be able to map suppliers and competitors. If you're a beauty salon, you want to know where you're getting all of your different supplies. You also want to know where all the other beauty salons are in a particular area. Or if you're a shoe store, similarly, you want to be able to figure that out. You want to be able to research consumer spending data and also projections, because if there is significant demographic changes projected in a specific area, this is something a retailer needs to know. You want to know demographic data for target markets. You want to have labor force and talent pool data so you know where you're going to be drawing from in order to staff your retail location. You certainly want to be able to map the proximity of any location to bus or subway stops. You want to know what parking exists, universities, major malls, hospitals, etc. And here's an example of a property report. This is just one small part of the report. It actually, there are many, many more fields on this one, in which it becomes possible to do all the analysis using the report tabs at the top around this one particular retail space that you're looking for here. To visualize it on the map, you can visualize it in different ways. 3D to zoom in on, you can pinpoint, you could do street view. Maybe you want to see what truck access is like, or what the parking is like, or what is next door to this particular location. All of that becomes possible. When it comes time to sharing this data, every data tool that you have must make that sharing very, very easy. In this case, we're looking at a community profile for the Long Island region. This is an intelligence component, but also from within the property itself. In this case, we have mapped out the variable of expenditures on women's apparel. We're looking at a specific space here. This is back in Michigan City, Indiana. And you can see that we're heat mapping it here. If you click on any one of the blocks, you'll get the detail about that. All you need to do is click share at the top to share on social media or generate a custom link back to this exact bit of analysis. Drive time analysis, obviously possible as well. You can adjust on the fly. So let's talk about some of the ways in which communities are showing and telling some information. These are some examples from social media, different communities that are using Twitter and LinkedIn, Facebook, sometimes Instagram, Snapchat stories, depending on who you're trying to reach in order to be able to communicate that. And these are ways in which they can generate data that would be useful on social media to do so. So you can generate those custom maps, you can grab a chart or a graph or share an infographic so that you're able to tell the story of your community using these social tools. We know that retailers are on social media. Try and reach them in that way. In this case, we're doing another kind of analysis, business cluster analysis. It's something I showed you before. Again, the radius is possible to change on the fly. And you can look at any of the different reports up there on the top around a specific area and then share that online, again, to tell the story of your location. In terms of online spaces, some of the things that I would recommend in terms of outreach to retailers. Let's think about a LinkedIn company page for starters here. This is really important for economic development. You will find retailers on LinkedIn. You will need a keyword optimized description. You want to put the URL back to your website, including a URL back to your data tools. And then you need to spend some time there actively connecting with the business owners in your area. You want to make sure that you include regular mention of local companies' activities and post information about promotions, repost things that they've shared. It's an example of a LinkedIn organizational profile, in this case for the City of Abbotsford Economic Development. You can see where the website URL is on there. In this case, we're looking at the City of Montreal. Also, you've got a detailed description in the About Us section, so you can share that as well. And it's another example here from the Halifax Partnership up in Nova Scotia. So you've got all kinds of data that is put in there, and you need to make sure that you're doing regular updates. When it comes to posting things online, you use hashtags to reach those retailers is something that you can do. And then telling stories that would be of interest to those retailers. So they want to learn about lower cost, quality of life, looking for business locations, all of the different things that we were talking about. Another example here from Toronto Global, and using these tools to tell the story of your region to make it attractive to potential investors in your area. You can create your own LinkedIn moderated group. That's certainly something that we see economic developers do. That means you get to moderate the conversation, invite all your area businesses to be part of it. This is a moderated online space where they can crowdsource ideas and share promotions, look for different synergies for places where they're able to share things, including updates, resources, data, and making connections, so networking, because there all often are synergies between retailers and other kinds of business owners and entrepreneurs in your community. When it comes to Facebook, we know that B2C retailers are more likely to be on Facebook than LinkedIn. LinkedIn's still a popular place, but it's some place that you want to go. So your consumer-oriented retailers are definitely going to be there on Facebook. So this is, again, a great place to set up a moderated group if that's something you want to do for the business community in your area. Show them the kinds of market intelligence and data you can offer them, and give them a virtual space where they can connect with each other, network, and create those other kinds of connections. Now, other things like Snapchat, for example, very useful for the under 25s, very visual. Instagram, again, also very, very visual. Social influencers, different kind of retail items. Pinterest is very popular, also very image-based, heavily skewed towards women. 81% of Pinterest users are women. So depending on the kinds of retailer, these are places where you might choose to go out and meet them. Small retailers are using influencers to share information and bring people into their stores, encourage sometimes online sales as well. You'll be looking for reviews is incredibly powerful, both for restaurants, food service, but also for stores and other kinds of service industry retailers in your area. They'll be blogging, vlogging, which are video blogs, different ways where they can go out into these virtual spaces, connect with potential customers, and then bring them back to the store where possible. So that online forum, very, very powerful. Now, if you have millennials, certainly you will in your area, it's something that you want to attract. It has become clear over time that millennials often are not aware of what economic developers are doing. So you are going to need to go out to find them, these youthpreneurs. So some of the suggestions, of course, are meeting them online, but Ironically, face-to-face can be very powerful with this very digitally connected group. So scheduling in-person regular face-to-face meetups at local coffee shops or bars where you get to host them, bring them in, get a chance to spend some time talking to them face-to-face, and then of course encouraging that connection online just so that they understand what it is that you're doing to help businesses in the area grow and thrive and to attract some new ones as well. This brings me to almost the end of the half an hour. I would love to hear any questions that you've got to share with me. So feel free to put that into the questions field in the GoToWebinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. One question that we have about again, making local small and medium businesses aware of the resources that you can offer them online because they may not come to your website. So there's a couple things that I would suggest. How do you make them aware? One, of course, is to make sure that you've got impeccable SEO. If they're doing organic searches online, you want to make sure that you're using the right words when it comes to supporting retail and existing small and medium businesses in your areas. So workshops, training sessions, access to data, opportunities to network, opportunities to connect, using the words that they themselves are using in their posts. Make sure that you have those things both on your website but also on your social media posts so that they will be able to find you in that way. And then, as I just said at the end, it would be important to go out and meet them in person in these different kinds of spaces, encourage that opportunity for meetups and face-to-face connection wherever possible. Someone just asked how they get more information about the GIS planning tools. Well, that's easy enough to do. My contact information up here on the screen. Be very happy to connect you with one of our team members who can show you lots of different examples of communities who are using, communities like yours that are using our tools to attract investment, large and small, and for business retention and expansion, help answer some questions that you might actually have. I am not seeing any other questions popping up in the questions field. So if you have a question that you have not had the chance to ask here, please feel free to reach out to me, asklar@gisplanning.com. I'm very happy to answer those questions for you over there. And I thank you all very much for your time. You will be getting an email with a link to this video recording in coming days. And we appreciate you taking some time to chat with us today. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.